Anybody not here? Would you come in? You're not here? Are you here? There's a few people are still quite busy having lessons, so we're going to wait about 10 minutes and then we'll make a start. So, but after that, door is closed. Okay, so I've got 10 minutes. If you'd like to have a practice, there's 2 each for the quick step, and we marked it 6 back for the finals. Collect your numbers, Marina. She's got the numbers already. I've got the pins. Get ready. 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. We'll have another quick step. You communicate very well. There we go. All right. If there's anybody who hasn't registered with Irina, would you please do that now or leave? Choice. Let's go! Anybody with a white shirt, twice. Well, there is one. Morning. Come on. Going blind.
Yeah, that's how we all get.
No! Be ready, get them again. Shoes on. body is turned slightly to the left, and very exquisite left arm positioning for the tango. So he's talking about body positioning. Also, he discussed about his very famous description of posture, we're calling the diving board action, where you'd be feeling, you've got the sensation you're on a diving board, so you've got wonderful projection, wonderful energy through your body, so you've got that sensation, but putting it into tango fashion, where you've got the hips flexed, the knees flexed, and the ankles, to be able to show the setup. And I'd like to let Anne carry on with the description of the hold. And I think what's very nice as well is that Anne's got direct information, what they were talking about, planning for the lecture in January, which is absolutely wonderful to be able to have the thought processes that they were doing before the actual lecture. And they also, at the same time, they pre-planned for this lecture tonight. So there's a lot of information that Anne is going to relay now, which will be absolutely...
Okay, so the very first thing when we did our first practice in here, the first thing Andrew said is, right, we've got to tell them about the right arm. The right arm needs to be clear. And he, in particular, was very keen that the right hand and arm had a very strong relationship to the centre of gravity of the body. So he really didn't like arm positions that were away from the centre. And so I've actually got somewhere, oh, there it is. I'm going to zip up here for a moment. I think
You have
Andrew,
a drink already.
I think,
And it's normally 7 o'clock when you take that.
I think Andrew would approve of this at this
He
bottle of
would.
champagne. But I often say, can you imagine dancing a stamina tango practice with a bottle of champagne out here somewhere, well away from your body? Can you imagine actually doing that? I think it's virtually impossible, and you'd have to use all these tiny muscles to support this bottle. So comfortable? I don't think so. Or efficient? Definitely not. But if you actually held the bottle towards your centre, you have a better chance of being able to survive for a longer period of time. So you've got greater sustainability, basically. So, and I remember when I was studying biomechanics, and there are 2 words, and Andrew said, well, you've got to say these words. And one of them is when you take a weight or your arms away from your centre, it's called abduction. And when you bring the weight towards your centre, it's called adduction. So those 2 actions, he really said you've got to say these 2 words. So think about the champagne bottle and make sure it's close to your centre, because, and this was the point he wanted to make, the leverage from the central part of the body to the right hand was essential. And that if the centre was in control, the desire to pull the lady would be minimal. So that's exactly how he described it. He put his hand to his centre, and there was a strong relationship with the right hand to the centre. And you could see the weight was activated from centre, and the arm was then secondary to that central power. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, as John has already described, he was very specific about a left foot position. And when he took the left foot position, as we all know, we do not have 3 planes of motion in tango. So we have 3 planes, but they're not in motion as we would have them in the swing dances. So for example, if I take my frontal plane, that frontal plane would be rising and falling because it's in motion, and it could even be changing its angle if we were metronomic or we were pendulum. So that depicts a frontal plane in motion. But we don't have that in tango. And equally, we are not applying the sway plane, whereby, again, we are actually in motion. But do we have sway in the tango? Well, yes, we do. We have some sway in the form of an angle of the centre in order to be able to retain our structure. Without the angles in the centre, it's very, very difficult to dance at high speed, particularly rotational speed, without having a 3-dimensional centre. So if I take my frontal plane, as you can see, it's perpendicular to the floor. My centre has a slight angle to it, so now I'm putting in my sway plane. If I move diagonally forward onto the right foot, now you can see there is slight turn in the centre. So those three planes form the setup for the tango. And so therefore, that was another very important point he wanted to make about being centred before we even start to dance. So we're really balanced with each other, therefore exceptionally efficient. Okay,
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's so nice to hear those words that Andrew and Anne were relaying to each other when they were planning for the lectures. I think it's fabulous. What I'm going to do now, I'd like to talk to you about the tango walks. Andrew was very particular about how you should create a tango walk, the styling of the legs and the way you're placing the feet. But after that, what we'd like you to do, we'd like you to come onto the floor to experience and feel the description that Anna said very well about the hold and about the frame, and also the fabulous information I'm going to give you about the walks. Andrew was very particular about feeling the weight is in between the 2 feet, and be feeling when he takes the setup together, which is something I hadn't heard for a long, long time, and I'd actually forgotten it, when he was talking about the 3 positions of the feet. So you've got from here, the man's right leg and the lady's left leg is in one line. Man has got the left leg here, and the lady's got her left leg to the other side. So we've got 3 lines here because the centre's turned to the right, and you want it to feel you're in a sitting position here. Now the way he described it extremely well on this video, when from here the placement of the foot, it's in CBMP, which means it's on the same track as the standing leg. He's placing the heel in the position, and he referred to it as a mini contra check. So you're feeling it's almost like a mini contra check. Your weight is in between the feet, and then you're placing the leg towards the standing leg and taking the step into a continuous gradual curve. And one thing I picked up very well, and I've used it a few times in my teaching as well, is he said, imagine you've got a ball between your legs. So when you're in this position here, you can feel it's quite compact and quite tense. The difficulty is when you can take the right step. So if you've still got the sensation of a ball between your feet, when you take the right step, it won't be too wide and it won't be in the wrong position. So you're feeling that curving position here of placing the weight, mini contra check feeling, feel the ball between the feet, placing the inside edge of the heel and the change over of weight. So you're never on 2 flat feet. You're on the back foot, transferring the weight to the front foot, and then you're collecting the weight on the foot, and then you can place again, feeling it from the inside edge of the toe through to the knee, be feeling that you're placing the foot. Again, mini contra check feeling, CBMP position, and then placing the heel again. And then of course if you continued this with say 8 walks, you would end up 360 degrees coming back to where you started from. So it's the feeling, the sensation of being on weight divided between the feet. So you're doing mini contra check, feeling the squeezing of this ball between the legs, so you can rock and place the weight. So you're only on 1 foot at a time. You're on the back foot, you're on the front foot, you're placing it, and then you can place the next leg into position. Again, strong CBMP position, which means it's on the same track. Of course, the lady's in between the man's feet here, so he needs to take a wider step to the side, but not too wide a step that you drop your ball. Gentlemen, do not drop your ball. It can be very painful. Weight on the right foot, placing of the foot, styling of the leg. Everything's to do with the style. Feeling that ball between the feet, placing the foot in position, changing the weight, transferring the weight. So you're never on 2 feet at a time. You're on 1, transferring across, and again it's placed again. So that's stalking action. The character of the dance is within the walks, and that's what whatever lecture I listen to the next one, and it's the same description all the time. It's always fanatical about the walks and about the styling, and he repeated some of the great tango dancers from before, no tango is complete without the walk. To do with the styling of the walk. It portrays exactly what you're producing tango style. So what we'd like you to do now, we'd like to have a little break for about 10 or 15 minutes. We'd like you to come onto the floor in groups, or
Yeah, if you'd like to, or
maybe you could all come on the floor at the same time and just maybe concentrate first of all about the setup that Anne very precisely described about the arm positioning.
I forgot something. I'm so
Can't
sorry.
you remind me about my arm as well?
No, I'm so
It's
sorry.
10 minutes, doesn't it?
I did actually forget something when I was discussing the right arm, that it does entirely depend on your height relationship as to how you style the right arm. So for example, John is going to have a very low right arm with me. So there's a stem coming down from his elbow to his right hand because of our height relationship. However, if I dance with Richard, his arm is much higher and it's much more curved. So it really entirely depends on who you are dancing with as to how you style the right arm. So that's basically case by case. However, the rule is, as we said earlier, that there is a leverage between your right arm and your centre. That's the key factor. Okay, sorry, I missed that.
And gentlemen, if you don't like that position, simple. Just change your partner. Get in you go. If it's too small, you've got to put your hand there. Sorry, darling, you're very nice, but you've got to go.